Namaste. In this third session on yoga psychology, we will discuss the triguna theory in Sankhya. Sankhya and yoga are very related. In fact, yoga is based on Sankhya psychology. So many have asked me these questions also. So this video will provide an answer to all of this. What are the three gunas? Sattva, Raja or Tama jo hum kehte hain. And how do they affect our life and character and of course mind? So we will study this extensively. Please understand that our entire knowledge and perception, it depends on our mind, the nature of our mind. And there are very many factors working in the mind. Now, if Vivekananda used to give the common example of a lake. If a lake is very still and the waters are very clear, you will clearly see what is at the bottom of the lake. But if the lake has very wavy, the waters are very wavy and turbulent, and the waters are turbid, not clean, then of course you can't see the bottom of the lake. So also if we want to know the seat of our perception, if we want self-knowledge, the lake of our mind should be still. Knowledge is possible only through calmness of mind. So how to produce this calmness? What are the factors that contribute to this state of mind? The main factors are these gunas. Because unless sattva guna is generated, the mind will remain turbulent and turbid. So there will be no self-knowledge. That is why we ask questions like, well, ye Atmagnan, ye kya cheez hai? Is it real or not? Only the external appears real to us. For the simple reason, the mind is in that state. It is in such a turbulent state. It doesn't give us any inkling of our own true being. So the manufacture of sattva, harmony, clarity, calmness is primary to attaining any level of deep knowledge. This we should understand. And these gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, they are actually nothing but products of prakriti. Mind itself is an evolute of prakriti. And prakriti is considered triguna mayi. And she has these three gunas. And they are in different proportions. They affect every mind. According to what we have cultivated, what we have allowed to grow in our minds, according to that decides the very color of our mind, as it were. And these gunas are nothing but the quality, the basic quality of our mind. So if there is sattva, the preponderance of sattva in our mind, then the mind will naturally be very transparent, clear, calm, alert, full of awareness, and it will easily get knowledge and higher perception. If the mind is imbued with rajas, if the proportion of rajas is higher, then the mind will be restless, very activity oriented, it will be clouded, it will be overactive, overthinking, and sort of bizarre. You don't know why it is doing that. And if the mind is tamasic, preponderance of tamas is there, then it will be inert, it will be dense, and there will be stupor, there will be sleep, more of sleep, very low awareness, and it will even be perverted. So please watch this slide. These are the three gunas of Prakriti and how they affect all matter and mind. Mind also is nothing but subtle matter. These gunas also serve as filters that determine almost everything about our life. Your entire thought process, your perceptions, your emotions, your basic thinking, your attitudes, and of course your behavior finally. All of this will depend on the quality of gunas in your mind. Any one of the gunas is going to predominate. If sattva predominates, naturally all of these are harmonious and regulated. There is high level awareness in the system naturally. And if the gunas are more rajas, if the rajas predominates in the mind, naturally there will be less awareness, more activity, more troubles. The mind is overactive sometimes, very restless sometimes. So all these, it will function like this. And that is how even all of your attitudes, your tendencies, they get tinged by these gunas. And if the tamas predominates, the mind is naturally sluggish, very poor awareness, and more of lethargy, more of perversion, all these jaganya gunavrittistha, they say in Sanskrit, which means all kinds of thoughts in the mind. So this is the nature of the mind when each guna dominates. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, a whole lot of factors are responsible for the creation of the gunas and the manifestation of these gunas. This includes food, your lifestyle, your habits of thought, your exposures. All of these will decide the level of guna in your mind. Through will and through a committed, disciplined life, the sattva guna is to be developed and cultivated. In fact, education should be about this, because finally these are the filters which are going to decide your level of knowledge, perception, even your shraddha, your dan, your yajna, what you give, what you offer, what you think, what you contribute, all of them will be decided by these gunas. So take care of some of these fundamental things in our life. What we consume through the senses, the ahar, what we eat, that should be satwik and good. Then the mind will naturally become satwik. How we lead our lives, and what are our times for sleep, for waking up, for concentration, for work. Do we contribute? Do we behave well with others? Are we kind at heart? All of these will decide, and they will increase the sattva guna in our mind. But exposing yourself to all sorts of things, taking in constant violence, all this will change the guna composition of the mind and make it very tamasic. So take care. It is in your hands what kind of guna you generate. In the Bhagavad Gita, I think Bhagavad Gita gives the best summary for these three gunas. Understanding it is actually called the triguna theory, the theory of three gunas in Sankhya psychology. So the Bhagavad Gita chapter 14 is called Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, understanding life and mind through the three gunas. So there Lord Krishna says, Sattva Raja Tama iti guna prakriti sambhava nibadhanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam, which means these three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, which are born of Prakriti, they bind what do they bind? They bind the seer with the seen, the knower within you, the self, with the body-mind apparatus. So they bring the deha and the dehin together. So if the mind is very transparent and clear, one will at once understand that everything, all of this is an object of my perception. It is not me. It belongs to me. It is the apparatus through which I am functioning. It is my instrument of perception, but it is not me. But if the mind is dense with tamas, it will miss this simple point. So this is how the gunas work. Depending on what predominates in your mind, it decides almost your entire mental life. It's not just about, as modern psychology says, about attitudes and habits. It is about the basic composition of your mind. What is the quality of your mind? That will determine your knowledge and perception. So cultivating the sattva guna is paramount to a good life and real knowledge. You see, this is how the gunas are described. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakamanāmayam sukha sangena badhnati jnana sangena chanagha. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, which means what is the nature of sattva? It gives brightness. Even it gives brightness on the face. When the mind is bright, the face will be bright. It gives clarity. And as a result, what happens? One gets attached to knowledge and higher happiness. Sattva itself generates happiness. You don't need objects to keep you happy. The mind is sattvic, you will be prafulla. You will be just happy. So sattva itself generates these states and attaches you to them. But what is the nature of rajas? If rajas predominates the mind, rajo ragatmakam vidhi trishna sangha samudbhavam tanni badhnati kaunteya karma sangena dehinam. So rajas is of the nature of restlessness and action and desire, and it binds the human being, human mind through overactivity. That is the nature of rajas. And tamastva jnanajam vidhi, if the mind is predominated by tamas, oh my God, tamastva jnanajam vidhi ajnanam, it generates ajnan and it generates all kinds of vrittis. So there is very poor awareness, and you actually are complete, your vital energy itself will be very dim. So it is a way of removing energy from your system. Tamas produces this lethargy and density in the mind. So this is the nature of tamas. And then very beautifully he says, Sattvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha evacha pramada moha tamaso bhavato ajnanam evacha. Sattva generates knowledge and happiness. Rajas, what does it produce? Greed. And tamas, it produces lethargy, moha, delusion, all kinds of attachments, and perverted intellect. So you are not able to understand the problem, and you attribute the problem to something outside of you. You never try to check your own mind. So tamas only brings in ignorance. It removes all knowledge. So these are the three gunas which determine almost everything in our life. Sri Ramakrishna gives us a very beautiful story, telling us how important it is to manufacture sattva guna and finally to transcend even that. Because self-knowledge is got when you transcend all the three gunas. But you have to transcend tamas through rajas, rajas through sattva, and finally transcend the sattva guna also. Vivekananda always used to say that India requires to transcend its tamas through rajas and then go into the sattvic state. So this story by Sri Ramakrishna is a very good pointer to understanding all these concepts. He starts the story like this. You see, there were three robbers who used to rob the people who would pass through a forest. Now one day they caught hold of a man and he had some money with him. So the first robber said, oh, okay, let's take this money and let's do off with him. Let's kill him. Otherwise you never know what he will do. He may let us down. He may go and inform the police. But the second robber said, no, let's take off the money, but we'll tie him up to a post. And the third robber said, yes, let's not kill him. Let's just tie him up. And when they tied him up and they left and distributed the money amongst themselves, and then they were gone, that time the third robber, who was compassionate at heart, he comes back and he unties this man and shows him the road that will lead him to his village. So then Sri Ramakrishna says, you see, this third robber, he's also a robber, but he's a robber with kindness and compassion in his heart. He liberated the man. So he's sattva guna. The one who tied him up is rajas. And the one who actually wanted to kill him is tamas. Tamas will kill the person. Rajas will bind the person. But sattva will finally release the person. He will show him the way. But still he's a robber. He can't go to his village and leave him there. So you have to transcend the three gunas finally in order to achieve self-knowledge. But without getting established in sattva, you will not even understand what transcending the gunas means and what Yog Vedanta means. Sattvic way of life and the predominance of sattva in the mind is absolutely essential for the good, higher spiritual life. In fact, the more the sattvic type of men in society, the better it is for society. That is why all the factors that contribute to the creation of these gunas, we must take care of that. This should be an essential part of education. First of all, the exposures you receive from the external world, which are taken up by your senses and converted into knowledge in your mind. These exposures should be of the sattvic nature, if you want the mind to be sattvic. And this also includes your ahar. Whatever you take in by way of food, whatever you take in through your senses is in fact ahar. So a little regulation along these fronts, so that you take in the right stuff, so that your thoughts are of the right kind. And then lifestyle changes. Definite a kind of disciplined life. Getting rid of indiscipline, compulsiveness. You can just by regulating your lifestyle, you can do this. Cultivating good habits in life, good thinking habits, exposure to good literature, so that you have elevating thoughts every day, like food it should become, and reading inspiring lives. Then the right habits of study, discipline in everyday life, a little meditation every day, and karma yoga, acts of service. All this is actually an essential part of education. If all these are done, naturally the sattva guna can be developed. Karma yoga is one of the greatest purifiers. The more you do things for others in a spirit of service, out of a kind, compassionate, loving heart, the more sattva guna will grow in the system. So you see, all the means and methods are there. The thing is to apply it and to make it, prioritize it in our lives. This is the essential thing. Until we have prioritized and conditioned ourselves into sattva, spiritual life, a very regulated, harmonious spiritual life is impossible. That is why the satwik way of life has to be adopted. That's the common goal of all humanity. Human evolution means essentially this, moving from the tamasic rung to the rajasic and finally to the satwik, and then through yoga going even beyond that. So this is the ladder of evolution which you find in Yoga Vedanta, and it is based on the three gunas. Thank you very much.